so sexy, you could probably look a girl in her eyes and get her pregnant right there on eyesight. Look into my eyes, Michael. Look into my eyes.
Don't play me. I will end you. You end your little thirsty one.
There's no gatekeepers, but we keep seeing the same people open the gate. Didn't Kevin open the gate and let Tiffany in? Did you think she wrote Girls Trip Goofball? Right. Or do you think that was already a script and they handed it to her?
This will forever change how you look at Tiffany Haddish, because the truth was never meant to come out. You've heard the jokes, you've seen the headlines, but what's been buried under the laughter is a disturbing lawsuit, silent power plays, and connections to people like Diddy that nobody wants to talk about.
And Tiffany Haddish just responded to the child's lawsuit that she is facing. This is an update after a 22-year-old woman, named only as Jane Doe, sued Haddish and comedian Aries Spears on behalf of a minor last week in a California court.
From shocking accusations involving minors, to a lawsuit that disappeared without explanation, to a spiral of arrests, fake accounts, and digital stalking, Tiffany's story isn't just messy, it's terrifying.
Because it's behind you now, but like, is that something?
Oh, I lost everything. All my gigs gone.
And once you hear everything she's survived, and everything she might still be protecting, you'll never look at her the same way again. Because this will forever change how you look at Tiffany Haddish. Before the Netflix deals, before the Emmys, before the celebrity romances and sold-out arenas, there was a lawsuit that almost destroyed Tiffany Haddish's entire career. Once you hear what it involved, it's hard not to wonder how she survived it at all.
A woman identified as Jane Doe sued Haddish and comedian Aries Spears on behalf of a minor identified as John Doe.
The lawsuit claimed that Tiffany and Aries had groomed her and her younger brother when they were just children. The allegations weren't vague. They were graphic, specific, and deeply disturbing. According to the court documents, Tiffany had met the children's mother years earlier. Both women were divorced, and they bonded quickly. The connection grew so close that Tiffany was calling the family every Christmas and birthday. She was no longer just a family friend. She was someone the mother trusted deeply, especially when it came to helping her kids break into the entertainment industry. So when Tiffany told the mother that she could help Jane land a role in a television commercial, it seemed like a golden opportunity. A friend of the family with real Hollywood experience was offering to guide her daughter into the industry. Why would she say no? But that decision would haunt the family forever. Jane, just 14 years old at the time, went to the shoot alone. Tiffany hadn't told her or her mother what the commercial was actually about. That was the first red flag. But the real horror came when Jane arrived on set. Instead of a harmless commercial, Jane was asked to watch other young girls perform a scene. According to her, the girls were arguing over a sandwich, then began eating it from opposite ends, making moaning noises and acting out exaggerated gestures. Jane said it was deeply uncomfortable. But it got worse. Tiffany allegedly entered the room, demonstrated how to properly eat the sandwich, adding her own sounds and hand movements, then asked Jane to do the same. Jane couldn't. She froze. It was too much. And when she failed to mimic the inappropriate scene, Tiffany reportedly got angry and dismissed her. Jane says Tiffany gave her $100 and sent her home. Jane never told her mom what happened. She was confused, embarrassed, and disturbed. But it wasn't over. Shortly after, Tiffany reached out to say she had another opportunity, this time for Jane's younger brother, John. Tiffany allegedly told their mother that John would be shooting a Nickelodeon reel, but that turned out to be a lie. Instead of filming for Nickelodeon, John ended up in a disturbing video titled "Through a Pea's Eyes." The video was posted to the sketch site Funny or Die and showed John, only 7 years old, playing a child left in the care of Aries Spears' character, a man portrayed as a predator. In the video, John is in his underwear, lying on the floor while Aries stares at him through holes in a newspaper. In one scene, Aries pours baby oil on John's back and massages it in. Another shows him getting into a bathtub with the boy. Throughout the reel, unsettling music plays in the background, R. Kelly's Bump and Grind, adding to the disturbing nature of the content. Funny, or Die Later, issued a public statement distancing themselves from the video. They said, "Funny or Die found this video absolutely disgusting and would never produce such content. We were not involved with the conceptualization, development, funding, or production of this video. It was uploaded to the site as user-generated content and was removed in 2008, immediately after becoming aware of its existence." After filming ended, John reportedly called his mother crying. He didn't want to act anymore. He was traumatized. At the time, both children were minors, so they couldn't take legal action on their own. But years later, Jane filed the lawsuit as an adult, detailing the emotional distress and long-term harm both she and her brother suffered. Tiffany Haddish initially denied everything. Through her attorney, she called the claims bogus and said the mother had been trying to shake her down for years, but the backlash was swift and brutal. Under intense public pressure, Tiffany posted a personal statement on Instagram. "While this sketch was intended to be comedic, it wasn't funny at all, and I deeply regret having agreed to act in it. I look forward to sharing more about this situation as soon as I can." The lawsuit included claims of gross negligence, emotional distress, battery, and SA of a minor. Despite her apology, the lawsuit carried on. But just as quickly as it began, it ended. Jane Doe suddenly dropped the case. Her statement was shocking. She said, "My family and I have known Tiffany Haddish for many years, and we now know that she would never harm me or my brother or help anyone else do anything that could harm us." The case was dismissed with prejudice, meaning it could never be refiled. Tiffany was cleared in the eyes of the law. But in the court of public opinion, questions still remain. Because when a video like that surfaces, especially involving children, it's almost impossible to forget. And it wouldn't be the last time Tiffany's name was tied to controversy. The lawsuit was dropped, the headlines moved on. But for many watching closely, something didn't sit right. Tiffany Haddish's story didn't end with legal clearance. It shifted, quietly, suspiciously. Because as her controversies began to fade, her name remained tied to one of the most powerful and most dangerous men in the industry, Sean "Diddy" Combs. To the public, their connection may not have seemed like much at first, but behind the scenes, it was clear that Tiffany had access to circles most comedians never touch. Parties, events, Hollywood projects. She was in the mix, and one of the people whose name kept appearing beside hers in industry gossip. Diddy. Their public interactions go back years. Red carpet moments, casual conversations, improv sets in front of big audiences. During Girls Trip press tours and Essence Festival appearances, they shared the stage. They vibed well enough for cameras to pick up on it, and for the industry to start watching. But it wasn't just the optics that raised eyebrows, it was the silence. By the time Tiffany Haddish was facing public scrutiny over child exploitation allegations, Diddy himself was becoming the focus of a wide range of lawsuits. Allegations involving trafficking, assault, abuse of power, and cover-ups. Federal agents raided his homes. Former employees flipped. Victims came forward. And yet, through all of that, Tiffany never spoke his name. Not to defend him, not to distance herself, not to do anything. In Hollywood, silence is currency. And Haddish seemed to understand that better than most. As Diddy's empire came under fire, many celebrities quietly stepped away, refusing to be seen with him, even unfollowing him online. But Tiffany, she never joined the exodus. Her silence was loud. This caused some people to ask, what does she know? Because Diddy isn't just another entertainer. For decades, he's been accused of manipulating artists, hiding scandals, and using his power to make lawsuits disappear. If Tiffany was truly connected to that world, even tangentially, it's worth asking whether she benefited from the same machinery. There's no hard proof Diddy intervened in Tiffany's lawsuit, but the pattern fits. Her case disappeared under bizarre circumstances. The accusers suddenly recanted. The dismissal was filed with prejudice, meaning it could never be reopened, and almost immediately, Tiffany began rebuilding her brand. That kind of bounce back doesn't usually happen without help. And then there's Kevin Hart. Long before Tiffany Haddish was a household name, she was homeless, sleeping in her car, and doing whatever she could to survive in Los Angeles. She's told the story herself, how Kevin Hart, then an up-and-coming comedian, found out she had nowhere to stay. He gave her $300 so she could get a hotel for a week. He told her to write down her goals, and later she said that advice changed her life. That's not just an act of kindness, that's mentorship, that's loyalty. What's more, comedian Cat Williams has been vocal in the past about Kevin Hart's ties to Diddy. For context, during his infamous interview on Club Shay Shay, Cat Williams made waves by expressing his candid views on fellow comedian Kevin Hart. Williams, known for his unapologetic style and fearless commentary, delved into the dynamics of Hollywood and the comedy industry. His statements brought attention to Hart's rapid rise to stardom and questioned the authenticity of the comedic landscape. Cat Williams began by highlighting the astonishing trajectory of Kevin Hart's career in Hollywood, by first questioning the unprecedented speed with which Hart achieved success.
In 15 years in Hollywood, no one in Hollywood has a memory of going to a sold-out Kevin Hart show, there being a line for him ever getting a standing ovation at any comedy club.
Williams went on and suggested that Hart's rapid ascent was unusual and posed the question of whether Hart had truly paid his dues in the competitive world of stand-up comedy. The comedian emphasized the significance of the journey and questioned whether Hart's seemingly instant success was indicative of a different narrative.
He already had his deals when he got here. Have we heard of a comedian that came to LA and in his first year in LA, he had his own sitcom on network television and had his own movie called Soul Plane that he was leading? No.
In the interview, Cat Williams introduced the term plant to describe someone who seemingly appears out of nowhere and attains success without the traditional struggles that comedians often face, and then claims they are self-made. But Cat Williams didn't stop at questioning Kevin Hart's rapid rise. He also delved into the dynamics of Hollywood gatekeepers. Williams challenged the notion that there are no gatekeepers in the entertainment industry, asserting that he has observed individuals controlling access to opportunities. He used the example of Kevin Hart supposedly letting Tiffany Haddish into the industry, raising the question of whether gatekeepers do indeed exist.
Yeah, because they tell you that there's no gatekeepers, but we keep seeing the same people open the gate. Didn't Kevin open the gate and let Tiffany in? Ain't he now opening it up for don't such and such open?
For context, Tiffany Haddish may have become a household name for her starring role in Girls Trip, or her historic appearance as the first black woman stand-up to host Saturday Night Live. But she wasn't always a star. In a 2018 interview with Vanity Fair, Haddish opened up about her early career days when she lived out of her car, and how fellow comedian Kevin Hart gave her the motivation and money she needed to move her life and career in a new direction. The two were working on a sketch comedy show together at the Laugh Factory in Los Angeles when Hart learned that Haddish was living in her car. She says he gave her $300 to find a place to stay. I would park my car in Beverly Hills and I would sleep over there, and the police would come every morning and make me move, she said. That was like my wake-up call. I got to know a lot of police officers like that. Using the money Hart gave her, Haddish booked a room at a local motel. She says Hart told her that once she got a place to stay, she should write out her goals and start doing something every day towards making them happen. I wrote, get myself an apartment, do these things, all these people I want to work with, everything, she said. I pretty much tackled almost all those goals. But despite her success, Cat Williams has said time and again that she isn't a true comedian. During an appearance on V103's Frank and Wanda in the Morning Show, Williams, who had just snagged an Emmy for his guest role on Atlanta, decided to discredit Haddish's rapid rise to fame. In his brutal takedown, he cast doubt on her comedic abilities, suggesting that she doesn't even write her own material and has yet to prove herself as a legitimate comedian. He flatly stated, "Haddish has been doing comedy since she was 16. You can't tell me your favorite Tiffany Haddish joke. Why? Because she ain't done a tour yet. She ain't done a special. She has not proven the ability to tell jokes back to back for an hour." Williams didn't mince words, and it seems his prophecy of skepticism about Haddish's comedy career might be haunting her now.
Trip, did you think she wrote Girls Trip Goofball?
Right.
Or do you think that was already a script and they handed it to her?
The suggestion that Haddish might not be the creative genius behind her own success sent shockwaves through the studio. Wanda Smith, apparently keen to defend Haddish, suggested that the reason people liked her was because she was real. Williams, never one to back down from a debate, threw a rhetorical jab, asking when real became marketable in the industry. To top it off, he dropped a bombshell by alleging that Haddish's popularity was due to her willingness to sleep with a white man, alluding to her not-so-secret infatuation with Brad Pitt. As the controversy raged on, Williams praised a host of other black female comedians, such as Luenell, Melanie Camarco, and Miss Laura, who he believed had been unjustly overlooked. He highlighted the double standards that seem to persist in the industry, where a black woman's looks are held against her. In his words, what you look like is not supposed to be held against you. And he emphasized the industry's penchant for sidelining talent in favor of those who fit a certain mold. And that might be what Kevin Hart did with Tiffany Haddish. In fact, after Kat's comment, Hart went with Haddish to the Breakfast Club to warn the comedian on bad-mouthing his star. Hart said Williams is mad because he squandered his Hollywood capital on drugs and unprofessionalism, and shouldn't disparage an up-and-comer.
You had the shot.
Cat was in that position at one point.
You were the guy.
Yeah.
You were set up to be the star. You didn't show up to work. You off promo. You off your promo trips that they had set up for you. You became a risk to the studios, which is why the studios stopped with you.
So when Tiffany's career finally took off, when she got Girls Trip, the Emmy, the Netflix deals, who was there again? Kevin. They starred together in Night School. They publicly praised each other. He vouched for her. She returned the favor. But here's where it gets complicated. Kevin Hart wasn't just Tiffany's supporter. He was also a regular guest at Diddy's infamous parties.
We want to thank you. Come here. Don't sit on the bed at night. No homo. No, just don't get close to the bed. Don't get close. But it's just like, yo, we want to thank you for hosting the thing, man. It's been a pleasure. You didn't have to do it, and you did it.
No. I definitely didn't have to do it. I definitely didn't have to.
So what does this mean? It means Tiffany Haddish wasn't just loosely connected to Diddy. She was 2 degrees away from his inner circle. Kevin Hart, one of her closest industry allies, was a recurring name on the guest list at Diddy's wild, no cameras allowed gatherings. The same parties that are now under scrutiny due to serious allegations of abuse, manipulation, and blackmail. And while none of this proves Tiffany was involved in anything illegal, it paints a clear picture. She knew the people who knew the secrets. She was close to one of the few comedians who had access to Diddy's most private spaces, and she never broke rank. Even when her own name was on the chopping block, Tiffany Haddish had survived what most people wouldn't: a child essay lawsuit, national backlash, and intense scrutiny over her silence during one of Hollywood's most disturbing news cycles. But surviving doesn't mean escaping untouched. Because right after the case was dismissed, Tiffany didn't return to the spotlight stronger. She started to crack. In January 2022, just months after the lawsuit resurfaced, Tiffany was arrested for DUI in Georgia. Police found her asleep behind the wheel of her car. She wasn't passed out in a parking lot or idling safely on the side of the road. She was blocking traffic, fully unconscious with the engine running. She later claimed she was grieving the death of her grandmother at the time. And maybe that's true, but it wasn't just a one-time slip. Less than 2 years later, in November 2023, Tiffany was arrested again, this time in Beverly Hills. Same story, passed out in her car. Same outcome: handcuffs, mugshot, headlines. Back-to-back DUI arrests aren't just bad luck. They're a warning sign. For someone who built her brand on authenticity, humor, and keeping it real, Tiffany was clearly spiraling. But instead of slowing down, she turned inward and darker. In 2024, she opened up about how the public pressure had changed her. In an interview with the Los Angeles Times, Tiffany admitted that she no longer just brushed off hate comments on social media. She took it personally, very personally. She revealed she had created a fake Instagram account under the name Sarah, just to stalk and destroy her critics. Not figuratively, literally. She said she would trace people's online activity, pull their credit reports and criminal records, and sometimes even call them directly. "Sometimes I get so mad that I'll get their phone number and I'll just call them," she told the outlet. "They be shocked that I called. They'll be like, 'I can't believe you even saw that.'" She wasn't joking. She hired a digital forensics analyst to analyze her Instagram inbox and found that over 75% of the death threats she received came from bots, mostly based in Malaysia and Iran. But it was the 25% from real people that obsessed her. She wanted revenge, and she wanted control. So she set up keyword blocks, filtering terms like setback, pedo, and not funny from ever showing up in her comments. She tried to control the narrative not just in public, but in private too. She told People magazine she was now sober, celibate, and finally, genuinely happy. But her behavior told a different story. When she took the stage again after her 2023 DUI arrest, she didn't express regret. She joked about it. Told the crowd that she'd prayed to God for a man in uniform, and then got arrested by one. The audience laughed, but critics didn't. Because when you've been accused of abusing children, passed out drunk in public twice, and then make jokes about it on stage, it doesn't exactly scream healing. It screams deflection, denial, desperation. That same month, Tiffany also revealed a deeply personal struggle, her battle with endometriosis and a shocking total of 8 miscarriages. She told People magazine that she believed the devil is real, and that she was constantly battling forces that wanted to see her fail. Her words were raw, maybe even sincere, but they also painted a picture of someone barely holding it together. And it wasn't just the public who noticed. In one of her own interviews, Tiffany mentioned that a person of high status approached her and expressed concern. "Is your mental health okay? Your name is always in the headlines. You said this, you said that. All I see is people attacking you. It's like, oh, don't get too close to Tiffany. I'm going to get attacked too." That's how she was being perceived now. Not just as controversial, but as dangerous. A liability. A flame that might burn anyone standing too close. Even with support from big names like Kevin Hart and ongoing projects in film and comedy, something had shifted. Tiffany Haddish wasn't being invited into rooms the same way she was before. She wasn't on every show. She wasn't the default funny woman on stage anymore. She was unpredictable, unstable, and being watched. All the energy she once poured into uplifting others was now focused on defending herself. Every mention online, every whisper in the industry, it became personal. And if there's one thing Hollywood fears more than a scandal, it's a woman who can't stay quiet about hers. Tiffany wasn't just fighting her critics, she was fighting herself. And with every new headline, it became harder to tell which part of her story was comedy and which part was collapse. Tiffany Haddish didn't just stumble into controversy one day. Her story, every outburst, every breakdown, every questionable decision has roots far deeper than most people realize. To understand why she spiraled, you have to understand where she came from. She was born in South Central Los Angeles in 1979. Her father, an Eritrean refugee, walked out when she was 3. Her mother tried to hold the family together, but when Tiffany was 8 years old, a devastating car accident changed everything. Her mother's head went through a windshield. She survived, but with brain damage that altered her completely. Soon after, she was diagnosed with schizophrenia. The warmth of a mother was replaced with violent outbursts and harsh insults. Tiffany's mom would scream at her, call her ugly, and even beat her. Tiffany begged to live with her grandmother, but her mom refused. At just 10 years old, she was raising her siblings, acting as caretaker to a woman who hated her. When Tiffany was 12, her mother attacked a neighbor and accidentally struck a baby. She was institutionalized. Tiffany and her siblings were separated and placed in foster care, alone, vulnerable, and afraid. In foster care, Tiffany was abused again. She says a man in the home would touch her under the excuse of helping her body grow. She didn't realize it was wrong until much later. At 17, after her homecoming dance, a police cadet offered her a ride. He took her to his place instead and raped her. She reported it. Nothing came of it. By 18, she was homeless, living in her car, trying to make people laugh while holding a mountain of trauma. Kevin Hart noticed she was struggling. He gave her $300 to get off the street and told her to write down her goals. That moment gave her just enough to push forward. But trauma doesn't go away because you land a role or get famous. It waits. It leaks out. And for Tiffany, it would all come rushing back later, when the cameras were rolling and the world was watching. Tiffany Haddish became famous for being loud, unfiltered, and real. But beneath the laughter, the red carpets, and the Instagram posts is someone who never really healed. She's the survivor of childhood trauma, SA, and a foster care system that failed her. She clawed her way into Hollywood with jokes, but once she got there, the pain didn't stop. It followed her, into her relationships, into her work, into every headline that now seems to tear her apart. And then came the lawsuit, a case involving children, graphic accusations, and a quiet dismissal that raised more questions than answers. Tiffany said little. Diddy, her powerful industry neighbor, said nothing. Kevin Hart, her longtime supporter and Diddy's party guest, stayed silent too. Tiffany's spiral from DUIs to digital stalking wasn't just random chaos. It was survival mode. It was what happens when someone never gets the chance to actually heal, just pretend. The system that made her famous never protected her. It protected itself. And as long as Tiffany played by the rules, keeping her mouth shut, staying loyal, it let her live. But how long can someone like her survive in that world? Because if Tiffany Haddish ever tells everything she's seen, everything she's heard, and everything that's been done behind the scenes, it won't just change how you see her. It'll change how you see everyone around her. Anyway, that's it for this video, folks. Bye.